reason why I wanted to have this conversation today is somewhat personal. And in fact, all of the conversations I have in the diary obviously are somewhat personal to some degree. They're inspired by some unanswered question I have in my head and also some observation I have in my life. And the observation I've had is that short form videos in particular are making my life worse. And actually, I've got to say, the catalyst moment really where I thought, I need to get you exceptional people together to have this conversation was I thought this, I then looked at my screen time and saw a huge change. I felt so much worse because all these social platforms have short form video now. And then I actually heard Elon Musk, who, has a social media platform that does short form videos, say that he thinks it's one of the worst inventions for humanity.
So yes, we should exert more self-control, but we're being pushed to addictive apps and it's messing us all up. That's not our fault.
Would you advise people to delete these short form videos?
Oh my God, yes. That was the most important thing you can do for your intelligence and for humanity. But
Jonathan, I've heard you say that the destruction of attention is the largest threat to humanity that's happening around the world. And I've also heard you say that short form videos are the worst of the worst because they're shattering attention spans.
I'm getting angry.
And then from the medical perspective, it's rewiring your body, increasing your risk of heart disease and PTSD.
We've moved too far into the virtual world and the results are catastrophic.
Aditi, what perspective do you come at this from, and what's been your perspective through all the work you've done about brains and stress and neuroscience and all these kinds of things that has shaped the way that you think about social media, screen time, short form video?
My background is that I'm a physician at Harvard, and my expertise is in stress, burnout, and mental health. And so that is the lens that I view all of this through. We know that the most deleterious relationship that you have is with your device. In every healthy relationship, we have boundaries. We have boundaries with our kids, our parents, our colleagues, with our friends, and yet we have no boundaries and often porous boundaries when it comes to the relationship you have with your device. So it's not so much about, becoming a digital monk and renouncing technology, because technology can serve us, right? It inspires, educates, connects. Now more than ever, it's so important to be an informed citizen, but not at the expense of your mental health. And so what Jonathan was saying, this, constant being engaged with your devices, with social media, the scrolling from the minute you wake up until you go to bed, there's a reason why you have your best ideas in the shower. And that's because that's the only place in the whole day where you are not with your device. People take their device to the bathroom, they sleep with your device, you eat with your device, people walk down the street. There's more near-miss pedestrian accidents because people are walking while they're crossing the street and looking at their devices.
Scrolling, wasting a bit of time doesn't seem so harmful. What is the big, if we play this forward 10, 20, 30 years, what is the big risk or threat?
The biggest threat right now, we don't even have to wait 20 years, is that through a process called neuroplasticity, which is just a big fancy word that simply means that your brain is a muscle, is that by engaging with social media, that sense of high volume, low quality, quick videos, you are actively rewiring your brain for the worst. So you're increasing your sense of stress, worsening your mental health, attention, cognition, distractibility, irritability, complex problem solving. All of that changes when you engage in that infinite scroll.
It's not just wasting time. It is literally training you to do things where television didn't do that. So this is a whole new game.
And to add to that, from the medical perspective, you're shortening this attention span. And what happens over time is, like Jonathan said, right, you're not sleeping as well because you are engaged with your device. We know that 80% of people are checking their phones within minutes of waking up. We have something called revenge bedtime procrastination, this concept of, at the end of the day, you're fatigued, you've had a long day, and we might have all the knowledge in the world, but in terms of action, there's a wide gap between knowledge and information and action. And so revenge bedtime procrastination is kind of an offshoot. So what happens? So, you have that decreased attention, you have that irritability, hypervigilance. And so at night, at the end of the day, it's 9 p.m. You finally, if you're a parent, your kids are asleep, your kitchen is clean, maybe you finish your entrepreneurial day and you finally sit down with Melanie on the couch and you're like, the me time. And you want to get to bed early and it's good for you. But then suddenly you're scrolling and before you know it, it's 2 a.m. And you're saying, oh my God, what happened? Why am I still awake? What was I doing all this time? What happens is that you essentially give yourself some me time at night. And so you procrastinate bedtime. And so what happens is with this revenge bedtime procrastination, it affects your sleep. And then when you don't have good sleep, good quality sleep, so you have difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, sleep debt over time for kids, for adults, has all sorts of ramifications. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, this short form video content, and the ripple effects go far and wide. Not only is it rewiring your brain, it's rewiring your body. It is affecting your sleep, which increases your risk of heart disease later in life. And when you're consuming graphic videos and graphic images, it can increase your personal risk of PTSD through vicarious trauma, even if you weren't there. So this is just a vast network of things that can happen to you simply because you're thinking, yeah, it's harmless. What is it? It's just a bunch of videos that I'm checking out. It's a way for me to decompress.
Would you advise people to delete these short form videos?
Oh my God, yes. Of course, yes. That would the most important thing you can do for your intelligence and for humanity would be delete them. So what I advise my students to do is I say, just do this. Just delete one of the social media apps that you use, especially if it's TikTok. Just delete it from your phone.